Hello again everyone, Rebecca here still and back for another on-tap Quark tutorial. In this video I'm going to design another article completely, but I'm going to use a few more advanced techniques than in the first full design video. These techniques aren't necessarily harder, but the design might take more time than a more basic design. I'm going to use the same article from the first video to show you how putting a little more time and thought into design can really add some pizzazz. So as always, let's get started by opening Quark. I've already opened a new document, so if you haven't, just File, New, and Project. Keep all of the defaults. And this time I'm going to go ahead and add 3 pages. And I'm going to drag the second page up beside the first one so that we get our spread. This time, instead of starting with my title, I'm going to start with my picture. One of my favorite design characteristics is the full spread photo. So I've used Photoshop to resize the photo I used in the original design. The author made sure to use the highest size and quality settings on his camera when taking the photo, so when I make the photo larger, it won't pixelate. In Photoshop, I simply went to Image and Image Size, and I adjust the image size so that it will be 11 inches high instead of just 4. Our magazine is, of course, 11 inches high, so I want the picture to be that tall. Notice it gets a lot bigger here, and that's okay. So now this picture will fit the magazine vertically, and I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'm going to go to Save As because I want to change the file type to TIFF image. TIFF files resize easier in designs, so try to always save images as TIFF files. If they're JPEGs, that's not a big deal, but if you do bring it up in Photoshop, save it as a TIFF because it will change size more easily without becoming pixelated. I'm just going to leave all of these as is. Click OK. So back in Quark, I'm going to make a photo box that just is the size of my spread. As always, right click and import. I'm going to go hover over here. So that's my JPEG image, and that's my TIFF file. Alright, I'm going to collapse this, and it looks pretty good. Notice how it's not extremely pixelated. It hasn't been stretched out. The picture imports at actual pixel size, so if it came in larger than this, you can scale it to your box, or grab your blue handles and move it around as you need. I like how this looks right now. Since we do read left to right, I like to put the heavier side of my image on the left side to catch my reader's eyes. And this photo leaves enough room on the right side here for me to have text. So let's go ahead and put our title in. Like with the first design, I'm going to title this Locating the Facts on Geocaching. And also, like the first one, I'm going to go ahead and put geocaching in a separate box. Okay. So now that locating the facts on is in its own box, I'm going to change the text to Verdana. I'm going to make it large. We're just going to go 48 for now. Let's move geocaching down. I'll also change the font on this, just for now, so I can kind of see what I'm working with. Okay, locating the faxon, it's a little hard to read, so I'm going to bold it. And still a little difficult. I'm going to make it white. That's better. This is a little hard to read here, but we'll see if right aligning it will fix it a little. Not quite, but we'll move on and see what happens. Alright, so geocaching, I'm going to do the same thing and make it bold and white and right aligned. And I should probably make it the right font. With this geocaching, I'm going to see just how large I can get it. I'm going to try 50, 55. Okay, it looks like 55 is about as big as I'm going to be able to get. But geocaching doesn't look much bigger than locating the faxon. So I'm going to go ahead and make this a little smaller, actually. So let's try 36. Oh, and perfect. So that gets it out of this hard to read area. I'm going to italicize it also, just to make geocaching stick out a little bit more in comparison. So I'm going to reduce the leading on this part like I did in the first video so that I can get the lines a little closer. Maybe not that close. There we go. And then I'm going to move geocaching right up in there. Okay, I'm going to F7 to kind of see how that looks. Looks okay. Geocaching still isn't standing out quite as much as I want it to, so I'm actually going to put a shadow on it. I'm not going to add a drop shadow. I'm actually going to create a shadow. So I'm just going to copy this text box, Control C, and paste it, Control V. And I'm going to put it, to make a shadow, I'm going to put it a little bit under and a little bit to the right. I'm just using the directional keypad actually on the keyboard. I'm going to stretch this out so that I know I can always grab it. Now to make it a shadow, the bottom text needs to be behind the top text. So I'm going to right click and send backward. If I send it to the back, it's going to go behind everything, including the background picture. So I'm just going to send it backward once. And while you can't see it just yet, it is now behind the front geocaching. So that we can see this differentiation, I'm going to double click this, select the text icon and make it black. And now we can see that one is definitely behind the other. I'm going to place it a little bit closer to the text. And F7 again. This still isn't coming out quite as popping as I'd like. So I'm going to double click again, select my text. I'm actually going to make my shadow this green color. And I think that looks much better. So this is really making this white text stand out. I'm going to move my text, my shadow, a little closer. Just so that it looks a little bit closer to the text, a little bit more extended from the text. Alright, I think that's good. So now it's time to insert the body text. I'm going to put my guides back up and create a text box. As always, from guide to guide, I'm going to put it all the way down to the bottom, and I'll stretch this up here also. So I've got my text, of course, pulled up into Word. I'm going to Control A to select all of it, Control C to copy it. Back in Quark, Control V to paste it. So now you can see that obviously the text is not going to work well going over this picture. So first, let's go ahead and add 3 columns. Again, this first column being in this picture is not going to work out so well. So what I'm actually going to do is just start at the beginning of the box and hit enter until all of the text is out of this first column. Okay, there we go. I'm going to collapse this for a moment and Control 1 to zoom all the way in. And that's a little close, but I think that we're going to be okay. So I'm going to Control A to select all my text, and of course make this Georgia. And go ahead and bump up my leading 3 times. And you can see that since I moved my leading, some of my blank lines came to the top of the second column. Just going to delete those out. I'm going to save now, just because I like to make sure that I don't lose any of my progress. Okay, so we can tell, if I go back to Control 1, this might be a little difficult in some places to read. It's really good here where the background picture is very light, but where it's shadowy and especially where it's green, it's a little hard to read. So I'm going to Control 0 again. And now I'm going to add a colored box behind this text. So I'm going to choose my rectangle box tool, and I'm just going to draw a box across the text. I want it to be a little bit wider and a little bit longer than my text. And now I'm going to kind of move it around so that it's about even all the way around the text. There's the same amount of space between the text and box all the way around. That looks about right. And I am going to make this box just white. Obviously, this is not what I'm going for. So send, and again, I'm just going to send this backward once so that it just goes behind the text. So this is still a little bit extreme. It just whites out this whole part of the picture. So I don't think that I need it to be completely white. So I'm going to come over here and change the opacity. I'm just going to bring it down slowly. And I think 45 is really where it makes the text the most readable, but it's not so bright that it draws away from the picture. I can still see the shading in the picture. And so I think 45 is really going to work the best here. Okay, so let's remove the guides to look at this. And that looks pretty nice. So now I'll move to my next page, put my guides back, and of course we have some text that needs to move down here. So I'll make a big text box. I'm going to click and hold, move over to my link tool, click the first box, click the second box. Go back to the text tool, open back up my measurements bar and put in my columns. And let's see how much text we actually have left. So I'm going to stretch it all the way out. And we have almost a full page, which translates a little better to almost 2 full half pages. Instead of having 1 whole full page of text, I would rather have 2 half pages. So I'm going to insert another page here. And I'm just going to push this down and add another text box up here and link these again. Go back to my text tool, open my measurements bar, and make that 3 columns. Okay, so since I have all of this room, there are a few ways that I can fill it up. Pictures and pull-out quotes. I would like to use a pull-out quote, but I'd also like to use at least one more picture. And I have quite a bit of room between these two pages, so I know I can get both of them in. So I'm going to add another picture up here on the top of page 3. So made my box. Right click, import. I'm going to use this one again. Since this picture is so wide, I'm actually going to make my box spread edge to edge instead of guide to guide. I'm going to fit my picture to my box, and then I'm going to fit my box to my picture so that there's no extra. At this point, I'm going to make sure that it's in the top left-hand corner by going to the Space Align tab on my measurements bar. And I'm going to use Page Relative Mode. I'm going to align the left edges and align it the top edges. And so now we can actually see, if I can control 1, we can see there's actually a little space here. So I'm going to first stretch my box a bit, double click to get my picture, hold shift, and stretch out my picture. Okay, so I'm going to control 0 to get back to the text. So now this can come up just a little bit. I don't want to get it too close to the picture. That's good. And now there's not a lot of text left. So it looks like on this page I probably have room for another picture as well as a pull-out quote. I'm going to go back to my document in Word because again I have the pull-out quotes bolded. I'm going to use this one again. So select it and Control C to copy. I'll make a text box. And Control V to paste it in there. Control A to select it all. Now I'll center it. Use Candara. And as always, I'm going to make it big. I'm going to change my little t to a capital T, and that broke the word there. So then that breaks hidden, putting hidden on its own line, so I don't really like that. So let's go ahead and take this space out too. So let's just make this 34 instead of 36. And push my leading up a few points. Maybe bold it. Okay. And I'm going to make it green also. And get my text out of the way. Okay, I actually like that a lot. F7 to get my guides back. And now I'm going to fill the last bit of space with another photo. Since my other pictures are going from edge to edge, I'm going to make this one go from edge to edge instead of just guide to guide. Right click, import. Let's see. There's another picture. Oh, I like this one. Scale picture. Oh. Okay, so the scale there didn't work because the picture has fit height-wise, so I'm just going to hold my shift and stretch it until it's the right width. I'm actually going to stretch it a little bit farther. And again, I'm going to use my Space Align tab on my measurements bar to make sure that it is at the bottom and all the way to the right. Okay, and before I leave these, I'm going to put a frame on both of my photos. Just a 2-point frame. Remove my guides to take a look. And I think that looks pretty good. Somehow I have an extra page, which is interesting, so I'm just going to delete that. Alright, and so to finish this, I'm going to come into my text, space after there, I'm going to go to Webdings, type 4, and I'm going to go back to Georgia, write the name of my writer, select it, make it 10-point font and italics. Okay, so now I can save. I'm just going to save it as project 1. And I'm done.